All right, the appointed hour having arrived, recognizing the presence of a quorum, I'll call this meeting of Forsyth City Council to order. Ask you to please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation to be led by Councilman Stroud. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we please bow our heads. Good Lord, our Father, we thank you for this day that you blessed us with, Lord God. Lord God, we just ask that you be in the midst of this meeting tonight. Lord God, we thank you for this city, Lord God. We thank you for the responsibility, Lord God, of trying to safeguard and to do what's right for it. But Lord God, we just pray for our fellow council member, Melvin Lawrence, Lord God. Lord God, we also pray for the leadership of our city, our state, and our nation, Lord God. Lord, we thank you and we love you. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Thank you all who have come to do business with the city of Forsyth tonight. All right, we do not have a quorum yet. We're waiting on Mr. Goolsby to dial in. He's on the road right now, so can we prompt him, or does he know he's supposed to be dialing in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and what about Mr. Howard?
I'm texting.
Okay. I apologize. I can't remember when we haven't had a quorum. It's been a while. Somebody's coming here.
Should be
Mr. Goolsby, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Let the record reflect we have a quorum with Mr. Goolsby, Mr. Stroud, Mr. Hewitt, and Mr. Dodd present. All right, the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I would like to ask that council consider inserting between items number 8 and 9 to reconsider or discuss at least the mask ordinance in light of the CDC's new guidance from last week. This is the mask ordinance pertaining to city buildings.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and second to approve the agenda with that inserted. Any discussion, questions, additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously and so approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the May 3, 2021 council meeting. You should have been provided a copy in advance electronically. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Motion from Councilman Hewitt, seconded by Councilman Stroud. Any discussion, additions, deletions, corrections there too? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? We have one premature vote. I think we're all there. All right, unanimous. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider an ordinance on the rezoning application of Castleview Development Partners, LLC. City Attorney.
All right, this comes to council as a proposed ordinance for rezoning of 201.91 acres, more or less. It's Monroe County Tax Parcel 054019. It's presently zoned R1. The rezoning would rezone all but 14 acres, more or less, as R2, and the 14 acres in the northern section of this property would be rezoned as NS, neighborhood shopping, without a convenience store with gas. It's been advertised in the Reporter April 28, May 5, and May 12, 2021. Went before Planning and Zoning on April 26, and the recommendation from P&Z was for approval, and this Pearson may have some more to add on that. I think you also have a copy of the Planning and Zoning minutes. I think that's ready for council to have a public hearing and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Zoning officer would like to make any comments before we open the hearing.
I'll repeat just a few things. The parcel is currently zoned R1 with lot size of 1 acre. They have requested to rezone 184.25 acres to R2 with lot size of .46. They have presented a concept idea of a subdivision with approximately 250 homes, which also includes amenities. They have also requested that the 14.81 acres be rezoned to neighborhood shopping with restrictions that convenience stores and gas pumps will not be allowed. They would like to see retail or office space developed on that parcel of land. There is a concept plan for the subdivision. It is included with the application. P&Z board voted to approve the rezoning with 6 board members present, 5 voting for, and Steve Coleman abstaining. And there are some color renderings that was brought of the amenities, if anybody would like to look at them. And it's not included in the packet.
All right. At this point, we will open the floor for the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone in the audience here wishing to speak in favor of the proposed rezoning application? Recognizing, if you'll just wait just a second, let me assess it. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the proposed rezoning application? Is there anyone here wishing to speak otherwise, just wants to speak on this matter? Either in favor, or against, or just wants to speak. All right, recognizing Mr. Newton, if you would, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Howell Newton. I reside at 219 Brooklyn Avenue here in Forsyth. Mr. Mayor and City Council member, I thank you for allowing me to come and discuss our planned project. This is property that has been in my family for generations. It is property that is adjacent to the existing Elmwood Estates subdivision that was started by my father, built by my father starting in the 1960s. At the time that subdivision was developed, he had a master plan drawn for development of all of the land, not only the land from the existing subdivision, but all the way to Thornton Road, including land that at the time was behind his house. We developed phase 1, and that was a successful operation, and then we developed phase 2 of Elmwood Estates, and then life got in the way. We just decided not to continue to develop, but we had always thought that land would be developed for residential need. Through the years, I've had numerous people ask me for other types of use. I've always declined that. I've had people ask me for the corner land on Highway 41 and Newton Drive, if we would be willing to sell any of that for commercial development. I've resisted that. This land is owned by our family partnership, which is comprised of my brother and his family. That is my brother, his wife, his son. They own 50% of it. I, my wife, and my 2 daughters own the other 50% of it. They are the owners of Willwell LLLP. We are seeking to develop the residential land to R2, which is half-acre and above houses that would be built at least to the city standards. We will have covenants that will be very strict. We will have building construction requirements, and we will have we plan to have an amenities center that will include a clubhouse and a swimming pool and maybe some other things. And we're planning to build this to develop it in 4 phases, roughly 4 50-acre phases. It could take as many as 10 to 15 years to completely build this project, but we want to do it in a manner that would be pleasing not only to our family, but to the community and to this city. We will adhere to all of the city requirements in terms of the road construction, the curb and gutters, sidewalks on both sides of the street. We are planning to have underground utilities, and we are anticipating having access into the sewer. The fact that we half-acre lots would would not be acceptable for septic tanks, so we will need sewer access with that. But that's our plan. On the neighborhood shopping, roughly the 14, 15 acres that are on the corner there of Newton Drive and Highway 41 would be. I've looked at what the covenants say, what the zoning ordinance says for that, and it would be little small businesses. It would not be anything like a convenience store or gas station. It would be primarily daytime use out of respect to the people living in the existing subdivision and those that would be living in what we plan to develop. That's my comment, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that any of you might have, or answer anything else you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. All right. Anybody else here wishing to speak in favor of the proposed rezoning application? Recognize Mr. Imam.
Thank you. I just would like to, I think Howell covered most everything that in a very good fashion, but the only thing I would like to add is to make it very clear just through the process of this that, we have tried to be good neighbors with many people in the community, including some of the landowners that are not on Newton Drive, but certainly many who live in the Newton subdivision, the current Newton subdivision. I've spoken with our superintendent. We've gotten feedback from another member of the school board and actually incorporated the feedback from the school board into our plan. So the most recent drawing shows a little bit different entrance onto Thornton based on their recommendations. Besides the Newton Drive, there's three other pretty good-sized tracts along Thornton, and I've sold 2 of those to people that now live in that area, and I've been able to speak with them, actually 4 of them, including Matt Gilbert, who owns a tract that's adjacent to this one. So all in total 4 of them, none of which had any objections, at least to us. We essentially, based on the feedback that we got from, many of the folks that we talked to, and also, quite honestly, some from Miss Newton, who had a concern that our original request of an R3 zoning was potentially going to be too dense and the lots too small to get the higher price point that we hope to achieve in the neighborhood. And so based on the feedback, including hers and several of the neighbors, and in order to reduce some of the impact, we cut 100 lots out of the development when we moved from an R3 request to an R2. Some who have ever been involved in a residential development will understand that's a pretty significant economic hit to the project as a whole, because basically the bigger the lots get, the longer you have to run your infrastructure. So, because it's not just roads, curb and gutter and sidewalks, it's water lines, it's sewer lines, and so the bigger the lots get, the longer per lot each, that you have to develop for each lot. So it really makes a lot of economic sense to go a little bit more compact than an acre. I'll be honest with you, economically right now, when you study the numbers and the cost of what it's costing to develop, I don't know that we're going to see any more 1 acre lot developments for a long time. And if you notice, most of the houses being built in Monroe County that are new are still being built on lots that were developed before the Great Recession, which those are very quickly drying up. So in my mind, in order for Monroe County to have a good, amount of inventory, this is something that I think will ultimately help the county and be healthy. So all that said, if anyone has any other questions for me, obviously Howell and I are here and happy to answer. But again, the last thing I will say is that I just want to second his what Howell said about this being something that we want that everybody that had something to do with the process to be proud of, and we want it to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now look back and say, okay, we are happy to have assigned our name and put our stamp on what we're doing. And so hopefully you guys will be proud as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Imami. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed project? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the proposed project? Anyone that has not yet been heard that wants to be heard? Because we're about to close the hearing. Yes, Mr. Bazemore, you're recognized.
I would just like to ask for a point of clarification. Would there be any, for the record, would there be any access to Newton Drive from this tunnel?
I'm so glad that you raised your hand and asked that question. So we would actually like to not only request, but we would like to request that it is put into the record that there will be zero access from any part of this parcel onto Newton Drive. This property will be completely independent of Newton Drive. And also, I'm glad you reminded me, because we've also made promises to some of the neighbors in this neighborhood related to the gas pumps, and because the only thing that stood out to me in the ordinance for that zoning designation as unusual or not ordinary was the fact that a gas station wouldn't have been allowed. Almost everything else is a lot lower rigor, I guess, or a lot easier use on the land. So we would like to submit that and ask and actually request that you put a condition in the approval, if should you choose to approve, that we will not put buried gas tanks, above ground gas tanks, that there will be no automotive service, or anything, businesses like that. And I think we've even gone to the point of saying convenience stores in the fashion of a gas station. Does that make sense? So I want to be clear about whatever a convenience store is. If we were to have like for example, if there were to be an upscale boutique that had, or let's just say a Scoops, for example, I want to be clear about what differentiates a service station from just some other retail establishment. But the idea is that we would actually like to be limited on that approval based on our commitments to some of the neighbors, if that's okay.
And you want to include no ingress or egress from Newton Drive.
I would appreciate if that is put on the record. Correct, yes, sir. Based on promises that we've made that we want to keep.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Bazemore.
I just want to thank Mr. Imami and Mr. Newton for the care that they've gone about this project.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any persons in the room who have not previously been heard that want to be heard on this subject? Now is the time to speak before the public hearing is closed. Anyone wanting to be heard? All right, recognizing no further interest at this time, the public hearing is now closed. It is now for council's consideration, and any motions are in order at this time.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this rezoning from R1 to R2, Council View Development Partners.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion by Councilman Stroud, seconded by Councilman Hewitt. Are you including or intending to include
Yes.
any of those?
Everything that Mr. Imami spoke of up here, that's included in my motion.
Do you intend to include that in your
Yes, sir.
second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or are there any questions?
I have a couple of things. When will construction tenders begin? Is it this year thing, next year? And will that impact any school traffic?
School starts in, oh gosh.
So that's the only thing I'm looking at. Will it impact that?
I I would think that if we're lucky, dirt might begin to be moved maybe in the next 4 months, about like 4 months from now or so, and then probably homes being built towards the end of the year is my guess.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we said buried utilities as well?
Yep.
Electrical lines buried?
Everything will be buried.
Man, I
Yes, sir.
love it.
Yes,
I
sir.
think that's huge.
So city a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
Sidewalks on both sides as well?
Correct.
So that's one of the issues we're having now, is sidewalks.
100%.
Okay, cool.
That's all.
And last thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What do you think?
I'll come up here for you. Sorry.
Don't make me dizzy.
How about one of the things I think is kind of is a growing thing. We said no gas stations, but will there be any electric charging stations on right here what I'm looking at? Is that a possibility or not? Because that's a growing trend right now.
I would look to the vision of the city, but electric charging stations, if we would permit those or have them on,
I mean, I'm 100%. I love the idea because you have an amphitheater right here. What will be the capacity of the amphitheater? I mean, how many people will this amphitheater?
And this is a concept of our engineers drafted that, and it is drafted on the acreage that we have intended for that. So it shows what we can do, but I don't have specifics on how big that's going to be.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Or if we'll even do that part of it, because we would want to make sure that the neighbors want one first, right? So if enough of them, so the thing we know we're going to do, we know we're going to do a pool, and we know we're going to do a community center space, because we just believe that no one will object to that. But it may be that enough of the people that buy in here say, you know what, I don't want an amphitheater, a block away. So.
Will you have any kind of restaurant or anything in the clubhouse?
So, I don't think in the clubhouse.
Can I help out just a second?
Yes.
He has only asked for a rezoning,
Right.
and so when he gets his permanent, he's gonna have to come back through this whole process again. I understand you guys have a lot of questions about those things, and I hope that and I'm sure that they will take those into consideration. But I just want to make sure that you understand those questions you're asking tonight, and he said, yes, we will. Until he brings it back on the paper, then we don't have that.
I will say this very quickly: that if anybody wants to Google Serenbe Atlanta, that is a big part of the inspiration for what we're trying to go after. Serenbe, Serenby, I think. If you just Google that. Development, Serenbe development. Anyways, that'll give you a little bit of the vision of kind of what with the residential and the commercial. But so anyway, though.
All right, Ms. Hall has one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Stroud's motion was from R1 to R2, which left out the neighborhood shopping portion. Your motion said that you approved from R1 to R2,
Right.
and there's also the 14 plus or minus acres that they're asking for neighborhood shopping.
Right. And what should that be rezoned to though?
That's going from R1 to neighborhood shopping.
Okay. I'll include that in my motion. I'll amend my motion to include that.
My second still stands.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or question? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously and so approved.
Thank you.
Thank you,
gentlemen. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider an ordinance on the conditional use application of Ventavious Trailer on behalf of St. Luke Lodge number 93. City Attorney.
This is an ordinance to provide a conditional use for property at 158 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive in Forsyth. It's tax parcel F17069. Presently zoned R3, and the zoning would not be changed. The conditional use would be so the property can be used for personal services, particularly a barber or beauty shop at the premises. This has been advertised in the Reporter issues of April 21, April 28, May 5, and May 12. Went to Planning and Zoning on April 26, and the recommendation was for approval there. I will point out, bringing this up, that the adjacent property was given a conditional use, I believe, within the last year, I believe, because of the transition of that neighborhood. So I think that sets it. Maybe anything Ms. Pearson may have to add, and then we'll probably hear.
Ms. Pearson?
He said the property is zoned R3. The space that he is reading is below the St. Luke Lodge, and there has been a hair salon for many years, but the previous owner that was leasing the space passed away. It has not been used in over a year, so that is why Mr. Traylor is requesting a conditional use. The P&Z board was informed that the previous use, about the previous use, and the board member asked if anyone has complained. And as far as I know, there have not been any complaints when it was used as a salon before. I told them that it would be posted be advertised in the paper, and it would be posted so if anyone had any concerns, they could be able to come to a public hearing. I believe Mr. Traylor and somebody from the lodge is here this evening, but 6 P&Z voting members that were present voted in favor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Public hearing is now open. The public hearing is now open. Anyone in the public wishing to speak in favor of the proposed conditional use application, please identify yourself. If you'll just identify yourself, we'll call on you in a minute if there's anybody. All right. Anybody here to speak in opposition to? Anybody wanting to speak against the proposal? All right. Anybody wanting to speak otherwise on the subject? All right. Recognizing those that want to speak in favor, if you want to come forward at this time. And you're not required to if you don't want to. That's fine. All right. Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Anybody that wants to be heard on this subject? All right. Recognizing no interest. At this time, the public hearing is closed. Public hearing is now closed. It is for council's consideration. Is there a motion forthcoming?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Hewitt, seconded by Councilman Stroud. Any discussion or questions?
I know it was used as Ms. Stacy Redden was the previous occupant. I didn't see any problems. I think it adds value to the neighborhood over there. I know. How many? Are you gonna have volunteers there? Okay. You did 3. Yeah, and that's awesome right there. I love that.
All right. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion or question? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is approved unanimously. So approved. Congratulations. All right. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider a proposed ordinance to amend Chapter 4, Alcoholic Beverages of the Code of the City of Forsyth. City Attorney.
Again, this comes to you as an ordinance to amend the alcohol code, specifically section 4-199, 4-251, 4-203, 450, and 4-254. In each case, to remove the words public park and restrictions on the location for alcohol sales. That phrase is not part of state law restricting distances from alcohol sales. It is not consistent in all of the provisions of the city code, but only in a couple of them. So this will have restriction in all instances as to the distance from any kind of alcohol sales. It's been advertised in the Reporter issues of April 28, May 5, and May 12. It's ready for public hearing. And council consideration.
All right, this time we'll open the floor for the public hearing. The public hearing is now open on this matter. Anyone in the audience wishing to be heard in favor of the proposed change in Chapter 4, Alcoholic Beverage Ordinance of the City of Forsyth? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this proposed change? Anyone even aware that we were doing the change? Anybody who wants to speak otherwise on the subject may do so at this time. In all seriousness, anybody that wants to come forward on this subject, now is the time to do so, either for, against, or just to speak out or ask a question. Detecting no interest at this time, we will close the floor for the public hearing. The public hearing is closed. It is now for council's consideration, and any motions are now in order.
I move the ordinance be amended. Second.
Motion by Councilman Dodge, seconded by Councilman Hewitt. Any discussion or questions related thereto? Hearing none. Feel like you got a question, Councilman Scott. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Nobody's on the phone anymore. Welcome, Mr. Goulston. All right. Next on the agenda, we have Waste Management Review with the Honorable Steve Edwards, Mayor of Sugar Hill, Georgia, who is the representative for Waste Management.
My paying job is with Waste Management. My volunteer job is Mayor of Sugar Hill. I come to you for tonight to talk about some issues we've been having, and I really just wanted to inform you and educate you on these issues. I think you're very much aware of what's going on. We've had some bumps in the road with service, and we've been talking with staff, and I made the suggestion of maybe coming to mayor and council and talking about these issues we're having, and then tell you how we're fixing them. We've had a significant shortage of drivers and helpers that actually collect the garbage and the recycling. And part of the reason is because of the doubling down on the unemployment benefits and the stimulus package. Those factors right there created the perfect storm and created a situation, an environment in which folks wanted to sit home and collect a check rather than go to work for us anymore. That is changing somewhat. I want to tell you how we pick you up is we pick you up with the driver-helper team. In Forsyth, you've always had dedicated drivers that pick up Forsyth. But the problem is the folks on the back of the trucks. They have been the ones that we've been trying to get and retain those employees to stay with us to get things done. That has created kind of a bump in the road, as I said earlier, and we apologize for that. I am your representative for Forsyth, and I take it very personally when I get calls from staff asking what the heck's going on, because I know those calls are coming to mayor and council. So here's what we're doing about it. We have implemented hiring bonuses. We have implemented referrals. We put billboards up trying to hire people. We're starting to turn that corner now, and we're seeing folks start to show up for work. Also, I think, too, with Governor Kemp's rejection of the federal unemployment, that may change it back to where we once were, because that'll be cut in half, I think, around mid-June. That'll help, too. But I basically just want to tell you, we apologize. We're trying our best. Please bear with us. You've got a great general manager in Jermaine Hill. He takes care of y'all really well. I've had countless meetings with staff, and we don't think it's going to get any worse, but I just want to be very truthful with y'all to just tell you what's going on. And that is exactly going on, and that is exactly what's going on right now. Usually we provide Forsyth with great service, other than a few bumps in the road, but this has been a significant impact to not only us, but our industry as a whole, and it's also rolled over to other businesses in your city that I'm sure have felt the impact. So y'all can blast me, you can throw things at me. I'm here to hear from you. I think things are going to get better, and again, I just want to tell you exactly what's going on. Even in my city, we're having the same issues with garbage pickup, along with, I've got 5 public works slots to fill, but nobody wants to work. So one of the other things that we're doing, which is significant, because we are also upping our pay for employees as well. We used to use temp labor on the back of trucks. We're not doing that anymore. We're getting away from that. They're going to be a direct hire of ours. So I think that'll be a big help as well. So any questions or comments? I'll be willing to take them.
Thank you for coming. First of all, any questions from the council?
I don't have a problem, but if you go by my house, my wife may throw something at you.
I think Miss Janice has my cell number, so be sure to call me directly. So I do want
How long
to.
is that thing gonna sit out
I know. Usually it's a day behind, and we try to catch up on Saturdays, but it's just so we've got there's something called the Green Team, and they're with Waste Management. They travel around helping fill in the gaps, just like what we're having now. But those sometimes are new folks that don't know Forsyth, and there might be a miss here and there, and I apologize for that. So
Hey, I thank you for being open and transparent, Mr. Mayor.
appreciate it.
And thank you for just being willing to come before us and tell us what's going on. So thank you for that, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate it.
Falling on the sword.
Following on the sword for him, yes, sir.
Steve, I do know for a little while, you guys were having to leave the recycling.
Yes,
because you
ma'am.
were having to pull drivers. Are you still having to do that so that we need to let people know that the recycling may not get picked up?
I think you probably do, because right now we're probably 2 or 3 hires away from becoming complete to create a sense of normalcy. So yes, ma'am, I would say just it'll be a day behind, and we'll get it. I know Jermaine is juggling and trying his best. So
All right, any other questions?
Would we be better off putting our recyclables in the trash?
I think politically, I don't think that's. The way the processing costs are now, I would say yes, but I think people are very sensitive about that issue. It is costly, and I don't see the recycling market coming back in the near future. Some cities are considering that. Some cities have already done that. But that might be something that y'all really need to take some time and talk about, because I've also seen where the political backlash was so severe, they decided to rescind that vote and went the other way. It's a good question, though.
Well, I was talking about temporary.
Oh, temporary. Let us see what we can do right now. But if there is an issue, we can certainly talk to staff and cross that bridge when we get there. Hopefully, we won't get there. So,
Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna head down the road. Y'all have a good meeting.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next item on the agenda is the inserted item, and that is the consideration of the mask ordinance. I don't remember what month we put the ordinance in effect for city buildings, but it was definitely earlier on in the pandemic. I know that last Thursday, the Centers for Disease Control released some new guidance stating that those who have been vaccinated no longer have to mask, even in indoors, outdoors, large crowds, small crowds. So just wanted to throw it on the table for council's consideration. What do y'all think about, I see this side of the table has already taken the advice. So
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion we reduce the mask ordinance for public buildings to be only for those that have been not been vaccinated.
we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion, Councilman Hewitt, second by Councilman Stroud. Any discussion?
Because this might be an evolving issue with regards to numbers go up, numbers go down, whatever the case may be, I would like to maybe restate the motion or amend the motion to say that that our guidelines for city buildings will follow that of the CDC. So they make it stricter again, and then we do it. If they continue to loosen or whatever, then that's fine too. But I just like to make sure we mirror what the CDC says.
Mr. Mayor, that's fine.
All right. We have a motion and second. Is everybody clear on what the motion was to relax it, except for those who are not vaccinated. So employees and guests of city buildings who are fully vaccinated no longer have to wear masks. If the CDC changes their guidance because the virus flares up or something, then we would go back to a stricter policy. And I guess you're leaving that at Ms. Hall's discretion in between meetings.
So who's going to check the vaccinations? I mean,
I'm not.
I know I'm funny, but who's going to check it? So at the end of the day, that's just something that I guess it's a fail-safe.
The CDC director said you're on the honor system.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the city of Forsyth should adopt the same policy. All right, so we have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? All right. Then the motion carries unanimously and so approved, and I think you can do as you wish about the mask now. All right, the next item on the agenda is approval of Pelicano Construction Change Order Number 8 for new City Hall building project. Ms. Hall.
This change order has no dollar amount associated with it. I will bring your attention to when Michael Garrison originally sent his request with the letter that was reviewed a couple months ago. He did include to go to June the 22nd. Then he submitted another change order that we approved for 30 days, and that expired yesterday. And so now he's submitted this change order with June the 22nd. So I think he's pretty confident with the June 22nd date. Of course, we did our second walkthrough last week. You saw the progress that has been made in the last 30 days. And this is the substantial completion date. This is not the complete date we move in on June the 22nd. This is the substantial completion date for the contractor. And I do present that to you with a recommendation that you do approve that change order.
All right, I have a motion by Councilman Stroud, second by Councilman Hewitt. Any discussion or questions related to this change order number 8?
So what does that mean, the date for lock and key in?
The contract with Pelicano says that they have 30 days after that substantial completion date to have punch list everything done. We're moved in, and that 30 days after that, on day 31, is when the the term just left me.
Liquidated
damages. Thank you.
So we're talking about
What would be
turning
July
over
22nd.
the end of July.
right, and substantial completion. We could start moving in. We could move into the building. It's just that he would be finished with everything 30 days after that June 22nd.
We may move in as soon as June 22nd under this change order.
Okay.
But they have until 30 days later to have it completely finished.
Yes.
It says 2021.
This is in the current year, yes. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. That change order is approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of GMA's District 6 officers for 2021-2022.
You have a copy of the ballot in your packet. There were no additional names submitted, and so those that are currently serving would move up in the District 6 officers as president. Mary Copeland, who is the mayor of Villageville. First vice president is our very own Mayor Wilson. Second vice president is Clifford Holmes, who is a council member from Warner Robins. And third vice president is Janie Reed, who is a council member in Stevenson.
All right, is there a motion to approve this slate of officers?
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Goolsby, seconded by Councilman Hewitt. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously and so approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of a resolution for the hours of operating for public parks and recreational facilities. Ms. Hall.
Our city ordinance previously had hours of operation for all of the city parks, and when we changed changed all the ordinances back in 2017. We changed it to reflect that times would be changed by resolution of city council at times when needed. We had left those times from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. for all of the parks. As you can see by the sign that I brought in for you to see, this sign is a metal sign that was attached to a metal post with large screws. It was put up on Friday afternoon before the guys left work. It was there Saturday when they closed closed the splash pad at 8 p.m. And when Chief Herndon went to open the splash pad on Sunday morning, it was laying on the ground and had been pulled off of not unscrewed and laid down. It had literally been pulled off of there. So we're asking that you change the hours or name the hours of all of the city parks from 8 a.m. until sunset. I think sunset would cover us at any time when time changes during the winter. If it's dark at 6 o'clock and we still have the parks open at 10 p.m., there's not sufficient lighting in the parks for anything to be going on inside those parks. And that's the resolution that is in your packet states that the hours will be from 8 a.m. until sunset, and that these hours will be posted, and that anyone that is in the park at any such hours other than that, that they can only be there with express consent of the city council.
And you're going to sunset, not dark, right?
Till sunset, yes.
So today, for example, sunset would be 8:33 p.m.
Give them about 30 or 40 minutes to
So-
back up, clear out.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Stroud, seconded by Councilman Hewitt. Any discussion or question?
So we have a problem with vandalism at the park. That's been going on forever. And we've talked about this for years. Is it a possible way, man, I know we've even talked about the cameras. And I mean, all that's been discussed. Is it possible that we can maybe look into it again for cameras? Because I think bandwidth was the issue from the camera to the police department, some of the monitoring and things of that nature. Because not only do we have a problem there, but we also have a problem at Connet as well. So I definitely think that if we're going to do this, let's take it a step further. I mean, I think taxpayers would be perfectly fine when we purchase some surveillance cameras or whatever you want to call it to capture people who are doing it, because that's inexcusable.
All right. For some reason, it updated while we were talking, and sunset is now 8:30 instead of 8:33. I don't know how that changed. Maybe I looked at that. What was so offensive about that sign? I didn't see it. Why do they tear
It
it
is
down?
one of the new signs that we put up that said, do not leave children without adult supervision at the splash pad. Because we were having a problem with children being left in the splash pad, and this was the one that was down closest to the splash pad.
Bob, can you hold that up so that it gets recorded on the camera?
All right, we have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously and so approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of a technical assistance request for the Regional Commission for grant research and application submission for Monroe County Hospital Authority project. Ms. Hall.
Ms. Pearson and I met with some members of the hospital authority, and they have several buildings that need to be torn down, completely demolished, because of all of the renovations that they've done to the hospital. These buildings that are in bad state need to be removed to enhance the look and appearance of the hospital. They plan to demolish those and then possibly, in the time being, go back with some green space. In order to do this through the Regional Commission, any work that the Regional Commission does requires a technical assistance. So we would have to send a technical assistance request. Probably to go along with this, we would need to have some sort of just a short intergovernmental agreement with the hospital authority. You saw in the email that I sent out to you that the hospital authority has talked to Monroe County, and they are fine with the city submitting this. And you will remember that the Regional Commission charges for each project that they work on. And I think we may be one of, if not the only city that pays a flat fee every year to the Regional Commission for any of the projects that they work on. And so this would save the hospital authority some money that way.
All right, is there a motion to approve? So moved. Motion by Councilman Dodd, second by Councilman Hewitt. Any discussion or questions?
Yes, Jansen, which buildings are they tearing down? Specifically.
The old hospital building,
Okay.
the old
McMurray.
McMurray. Is the first one on the left the McMurray building?
First one, Dr. Smith.
Dr. Smith, they're gonna keep the McMurray building.
Do you remember the names of the
They
buildings?
said there was like 5 buildings.
There's 5.
Where the emergency room is, but there was one building there, and then one you can probably see it's covered up, and then the hospital wing, that I think they're considered, renovating or tearing down, whichever works best.
You can't see the hospital for the old hospital. I'm just hoping they were including that.
Yes, that's the main one.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously and so approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of the street closure request for the Monroe County Bicentennial Festival on September 25, 26, 2021, from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. That will be past sunset. Yes, Ms. Hall.
When Mr. Bass and Mr. Dumas came to the last council meeting and they reviewed the bicentennial, they said that they would be submitting a street closure request, and this is the street closure request that goes with the event that they're holding for the bicentennial.
We have a motion from Councilman Stroud, seconded by Councilman Goolsby. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously and so approved. We have next approval of requisitions greater than $5,000, of which there are 3 listed. One for Piles Plumbing for $12,750 for removal of a fire hydrant. One to Piles Plumbing for $14,450 for replacement of a fire hydrant. One to Stewart C. Irby Company for $5,625 for replacement of fiberglass crossarms. Is there a motion to approve one or all of those invoices?
Make a motion to approve all 3.
Motion by Councilman Stroud, seconded by Councilman Hewitt to approve all 3 invoices. Any questions or discussion?
What's the Stewart Irby? Replacement of fiberglass crossing? I mean, that's that a railroad crossing?
No, so this is something that the electric department uses. 25 of them, they will probably not use all those in 3 or 4 years, but 25 is the minimum order. But it is something that they use with their electrical. I'm not sure exactly what it does.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any other questions?
The fire hydrants, it was $12,000 to remove, and then $12,000 to put it back in right.
14 to put it back in your right.
To move it, but it has to be moved as well. The 12,000, you'll remember when we first started talking about Harris Street there at the intersection with East Main Street, we were talking about City Hall building. We wanted to correct the bad intersection there on Harris Street. And DOT said in order to do that, the grade would have to be such that we would be replacing road all the way back to inventory at a cost of about $500,000. So we decided to forego that. Now DOT has come in and said that we have to widen Harris Street by about 2 foot. In widening Harris Street, the fire hydrant that's going to be removed is in the way, and so they will need to remove that, put in an insertion valve, and then they will need to insert into the larger line and put a new fire hydrant there. Also, with the moving of the road over at the intersection of Chambers Street and Harris Street, there is an AT&T pole that is there, but AT&T is moving that at no cost to the city because it is a requirement of DOT. But yes, to remove that fire hydrant that is on a 4-inch line and put in an insertion valve and then insert a fire hydrant into a I don't remember if he said a 6 or an 8 inch. I think it's an 8-inch line. It is the $27,200 for both of those.
While we're on, you mentioned Harris Street, it made me think of it. Several people have asked about doing something at the intersection of Harris and Johnston in relation to a four-way stop or some traffic controlling measure there. I don't know if it's been mentioned to y'all. We talked about the one-ways a couple of years ago. That didn't work, so. But I bring that to y'all's attention because other people have mentioned that it is hard to see. You have, I've said it before, you have to almost pull out into traffic if you're coming from Harris home to Johnston. And there's prone to be an accident there sometimes. But anyway, I just bring that to your attention. Not really germane to this issue. Say again?
We need four-way stops.
Four-way stops.
We need one at Harris and Johnston, and Harris and Adams, and Kimball and Johnston, and Kimball and Adams. That entire block right there because of the increased commercial traffic.
Well,
I can see that.
and even if you're doing the speed limit through there, it seems much faster if you're standing on the sidewalk on Johnston Street as the cars are coming into town. It would probably slow some of that down.
Isn't that speed limit supposed to be 25 right there?
Probably.
Yeah, but even the 25.
Yeah, I mean 25 an accident, but I mean, people surely don't go 25. And I think it says 25 back down the street. They just don't pick up on it.
Yeah, they go pretty fast.
Yeah.
Almost got hit there.
You'll hear them coming though, because they got loud mufflers, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Know when they get there. Anyway, we have a motion and second. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously and so approved. That moves us out of regular business and into reports. We'll begin. Yes.
What do we need to do
That's four-way
about the
stop.
four-way stop?
Sounds like she's already studied it. You're going to bring us a recommendation?
I can certainly do that. If you guys will entertain that, we'd love to do that and put in some raised crosswalks on Adams Street as well.
You know, we got a lot of grief when we put the one on West Main, or West Johnston.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you save.
And I think
If you
it's
save
something,
one life, you know.
I think it's something we need to consider, and we haven't had any accidents. I don't think to speak of since we put it, maybe once.
First couple of blocks.
It's been involved.
Yeah, it's I see it every day.
When can you add that to this city manager?
With Jones and then Fox Road. Got a lot of, and now there's other Bill Village.
The city street.
If that's something that you guys are in favor of,
Both of those city streets.
yes, they're all city streets. So that this does not require an advertisement, purchase of additional stop signs. I dare say that would be over $5,000, so that wouldn't require. The only thing we'll have to figure out some kind of preliminary to let people know that a four-way is coming.
We've mentioned it before. If you could get some of those, they make those stop signs that flash, and I think they're solar. If we could get a couple of those on the coming into town side, and you're coming.
What do you do if there's a big SUV part there and you can't see the stop sign?
And that's going to be the other thing to where exactly is
There's one on either side of the street.
I understand, but if the car's parked there and blocking it, you talk
There needs
about,
to be something done about parking.
you gotta do something about the parking right there at that intersection. If you got cars right there at the intersection,
I
you're not
do
gonna see
believe
it.
you can stop trucks and SUVs from parking there, can't you?
Yeah.
But that goes back to the whole thing that we
Restrict.
talked about in the past. I know Ms. Pearson brought it before us, and I was the one that said no about this resizing some of the parking spots. You know, but it also goes back to, I mean, we've talked about the four-way stops in those areas. You know, I used to have a low-profile car. It was so hard to see out there. But also, somebody else brought forward, if you remove the parking blocks in front of all the parking spaces that we paid a lot of money for, then that would allow cars to move in a little bit more. You could see even means you could see clearer. So everything we were talking about, we've discussed before. We just got to pull the trigger and make something happen.
I think we start to move on from there to maybe enlarging those by moving those stop.
That's fine.
Moving those stop
agreement on the four-way stop?
Oh, absolutely.
So it sounds like Ms. Hall will get to work on it.
Thank you.
But I agree with what you said, Mr. Mayor, about making it I would personally look at making it a clear, visible stop sign, if it was flashing or something, because, I mean, most of us in the room have lived in Forsyth for ages, and there's never been a stop sign going out Johnson Street before. So at the end of the day, just kind of bringing it to somebody's attention, I just think that would be the right thing to do.
Yeah. Give an opportunity.
I know the first few months on West Johnson,
Absolutely.
people were running.
Yeah.
So they're so used to it.
It's working now.
It's working beautifully.
Yeah.
No problem.
All right. Now we'll begin with the city manager's report. Ms. Hall. She got a very brief one tonight.
I do. I sent you a two-pager. Just to hit a couple of the highlights, of course, this is Forsyth Festival Week. Business to business is Thursday night at Cunningham Realty from 5:30 to 7, and then the Forsyth Festival is Saturday and Sunday. We will have the block up on the square will be blocked off on Friday afternoon so that the food vendors can start coming in. We've kind of talked about the splash pad already, but I just want to give you an idea of the type of issues that we are currently having. Last year, we had very few issues maintenance-wise with the splash pad. The year before, it was a little worse. But you remember the first full year, we had a lot of issues with the chemical balancing. I'm not talking about now vandalism issues. I'm talking about the actual running of the splash pad. Just to give you an idea, Chief Herndon spent 6 hours at the splash pad on Saturday and 4 hours at the splash pad on Sunday. Today, he has gone out there every hour on the hour to check it to make sure that it is continuing to run. The levels have been perfect today. So that's why we've asked, it was less than $5,000, so that's why we have approved the purchase of all new electronics at the splash pad. This will replace the control panel, this will replace both of the chemical pumps, everything that is above what we call the feature line. Hopefully that will be in before the middle of June, and then Carlos can come up. It will take 2 days. He will have to close the splash pad down to put those in. So we'll try to pick a day in the middle of the week and not a weekend. But we're having constant issues, and it's got to be within that electronic system.
Ms. Hall, we made a recommendation a few meetings ago, maybe last meeting, about hiring someone to to oversee the splash pad. But it seems like we can kill two birds with one stone. If we have somebody to oversee, so we won't have vandalism like we have. But also, if we can send that person to get certified in whatever Chief Herndon does with the chemicals and stuff. I mean, because you're talking about 10 hours on a weekend, that's...
I understand your point, but it has taken Chief Herndon, what is this, the fourth year? Into the fourth year to get to the point where he knows it, he understands it, he is the only one that does anything with it. To start with, we had employees that were assigned out there on a daily basis. There was probably about 4 or 5 of us, if not more, that as people called and said the splash pad was off, that we would go and work on it. But we finally got to the point where we said we've got to have one person, and he did go and get his full certification so that he passes the inspection with the health department. We have to have that person. I just don't know that we would be able to find someone that would be able to take over and replace what Chief Herndon is doing at this point.
What happens if Chief Herndon gets sick?
Then right now we don't have a backup. We would have to go back to working with one of the pool companies, because that's what we paid before we had Montego. But you have to have a certified pool operator. And that class, I don't know that class is something that you can just go and take. They do offer it at different times.
And who offers? I mean, where do they go to get trained?
Pool operator, he trains people.
I'm just
The
wondering.
Academy of Pool.
I do not remember where, because he and Brian, the former facilities manager that we had, they both went and got their certification. But of course, we no longer have a facilities manager.
Leanne, do you know where they go?
They can work with the Washington Health District and get us classes scheduled to various places throughout the whole state. They're just taught different areas at different times. But we keep a list at our office. The health district keeps a list of those classes are active. They're right, we have to have a CPA for that.
All right.
Just wondering, because a lot of places, their lifeguards handle this stuff. Just wondering.
All right.
You'll see there that the two water projects, water line replacement projects that we have, Blood Street is making some progress. He still says that he will be finished by the end of this month. The West Main project, all the new lines are in operation. We do still have one small section of the old line that is operational, but they're hoping with another insertion valve that they'll be able to isolate that. Remember that we're working on the T-Splosh projects. Ms. Pearson and I have been talking about the complaints that she and I are receiving about downtown parking. This goes right in with the conversation that you were just having, and so Tammy is working on putting together a presentation to discuss the downtown parking and the issues that we do see and that we do know that exist. You will see that I asked about, and someone asking about installing an American flag at the Monroe Hill Cemetery. Mr. Melton had done some research, and I did as well, and I'm not sure that we're going to be able to do this because one of the requirements for a flag that stays up 24/7, it has to have some sort of illumination on it, and so I don't know that that's something that we'll be able to do at this time, but I will talk back to him and let him know that information. All of our crews are back to normal operation. Last week we had to shut down all non-essential because of the gas shortage, because they were not certain as to when they would get another refill at the fuel depot. Thankfully that came in over the weekend, and so everybody's back to normal. This is an example of the table tents that the DDA Main Street has put together. They're putting this out in all of the retails, restaurants, hotels. At the last meeting, you guys talked about, and Mayor Wilson asked that you get together some dates, possibly in either June or July, that you would like to do the strategic planning retreat with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Had a meeting last week with Daryl Ingram, and he's fairly tied up for June, but if June is the only time that we can get together, we can see what he can do. If not, then he's got some time in July. So if you'll just get those dates to me, because then we've got the 7 planning and zoning members that we need to add. Found out this afternoon, right before the meeting, that the issues that's in the report about the issues about people paying their bills online, that has been corrected by Government Window. So all of those issues should be corrected. Regina has submitted the information to the local fiscal relief fund so that we can get our money through the American Rescue Plan Act. The golf course is closed today and tomorrow. They are aerating the greens. They could possibly open back up tomorrow afternoon, but chances are that they will be closed today and tomorrow. Kind of at Park Ball Field, some of you may have been contacted by a couple of the guys that are playing on the ball teams that are playing on Sundays. Kind of was scheduled to be cut last week, and so of course when we had to pull everybody off the street, the ball fields were not cut. They wanted us to go ahead and drag the infield, and that's not something that we do. He figured out the guy's name, and he said he would get in touch with them, but they're having tournaments out there at kind of Ball Field every Sunday.
What about bases? Somebody asked me about some new bases.
I think it's been a city county project. We did it once before when Mr. Edge was out there. And I know it was both big city and county project where we worked on the fields together. I think they broke the infield. They had a tournament that weekend as well. So and it came out perfectly fine. So that might be another.
That's the guy that always he works for the county.
Okay.
I can't think of it. But he works for the county, but he has whatever the equipment is to drag, and Mr. Johnson said he was going to call him. We continue to have some issues with businesses having various events and serving alcohol. Any public event must have a city and a state alcohol license or a one-day permit. A letter is being drafted and will go out to all of the businesses downtown to let them know of this requirement, and that even if they're doing the one-day permit, that they still need to come before city council for approval. And then the state requires at least 10 days to get their one-day permit approved. And I have talked with the agent at the Department of Revenue who's over alcohol and tobacco, and he has looked at our ordinance and the state ordinance, and we are fairly in line with the state as far as that ordinance. We'd like to have a work session at 5 o'clock before the next council meeting for Carl Hofstadter to come and do the review that he's going to come and do tonight, but with the public hearings that were on the agenda. He decided not to come tonight, but would like for him to come at 5 o'clock on June the 7th, if everybody would be able to come at 5.
You'll send us an invite.
And if you would like to look before you leave tonight, all of the information that's over on the table, that's some of the examples and samples of the fixtures and furniture that will be in the new building, the floor, the carpet, and the tile. If you'd like to look at that, Regina and I will be able to hopefully answer any questions that you have about that. And then you see the economic development and zoning report. I think this is the first council meeting in quite some time that I did not have a list of public hearings that would be for the next meeting. Right now, I don't have any that are scheduled for the next meeting, but you'll see all those things that they are working on. And just make sure that if you do want to sign up for the golf tournament, that June the 4th is the last day to sign up, and you'll need to see Tammy in order to sign up and get your team signed up.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hall. Any questions for the city manager?
Hey, I'm looking at the preliminary layout for the Forsyth. That one looks like a 2019 layout. Is that going to still be the same thing?
She came Thursday, and she said that they were using the same layout from 2019 because for 2020, even though we're not having a stage, they were going to move some of the food vendors around. We were going to move the stage, put the stage at Lee Street instead of Main Street. But she's gone back to that same layout from 2019.
I thought we were not going to do a kids' corner.
And we're not doing a kids' corner.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for the city manager? Hearing none, we'll move to the city attorney report.
I don't have anything to add unless there's a question from anybody.
Any questions for the city attorney? All right, mayor's report. I don't have anything to add unless anybody has any questions for me. I think we addressed everything I have during the meeting. All right, I'll take that as a good sign, and we'll move on to additional business. Any additional business?
Hey, for the strategic planning session, we're talking about building Forsyth and Monroe County for the future. Why don't we do like an invite for some teams and kind of see get their input? You know, and most of them say they want an amusement park, they want a Chick-fil-A, blah, 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 which I don't want to minimize any of their thoughts, but I think that'd be very important. I mean, we'll be the old ones, and if we're still alive. But at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones that's going to be the steering the ship. I think it's very important to kind of see maybe what their vision is. How do we go about selection? I'm not even really sure, but I think that would be, to me, that's a vital piece in the strategic planning for Monroe County, is understand what they want and their vision for Monroe County as well.
Well, we need to remind them that we don't make decisions about restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
So those people,
right,
they look at numbers, they crunch the numbers, and they decide to come here or they don't.
Right.
We encourage them all, but we just need to remind them of that.
We hope to create the environment,
Right.
fertile soil for those that want to come.
Sure.
They ultimately make that decision. But I think we need, if I can interrupt, just say we've talked about the team council before.
Yeah.
I think we need to revisit that concept, because I think that would allow for that avenue to address that, and not just one time, but on an ongoing basis, and get younger people involved in city government, learning about city government.
But in the interim, because that team council is going to take the time to get started, and this right here is in the very near future, I think that we can figure out some kind of, we're out on summer break, so it's going to be hard to capture everybody. But those who are here, why not? What do we have to lose? And just talking with you. I think it's something that you can host in this room. Costs us no money. I'll be here with you if you need me to.
Who does the business?
I'm not really sure since Miss Sanders, I'm not really sure who's over there. I can find out tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Maybe get presidents of several different clubs.
Sure. All right, sounds good. Any other additional business? I like Hold on, public comments. Any other additional business from council? All right. Any public comments at this time? You may come forward. Please state your name and address for the record. You have up to 4 minutes.
All right. I'll be brief. David Lowry is my name. I'm a resident of 255 East Main Street. My wife and another resident is here, and this is just some questions regarding some previously discussed business. And let me just go 4 questions, very brief. I'll just go through the questions, and then you guys can. It has to do with the speed bumps on East Main Street. Our understanding is that it was approved. We would just want to know what person or persons would be responsible for the installation, who or what is responsible for the delay. We're not sure if this ETA or the time frame on this is this normal, or what we're looking at. We just don't know. We had a speed, I guess, for lack of a better term, a speed sign put up on East Main Street, which has been taken down. My understanding it was broken, and they're going to put another one up. We didn't know if that funding for that came from the same place that's going to fund the speed bumps. We didn't know how they were, if it was a correlation or a prerequisite for putting up the speed bumps. We just don't know. Had questions about that. And is the speed bump, funding coming from the same source that put up the speed sign? But it's just a continuing problem. I know that other streets have had issues too, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and we're just trying to it's a big problem, and we just want to know where we're at on the speed bump issue.
Ms. Hall, you want to address those?
I'll try to answer your questions. The City Council actually adopted a policy to go along with the signs that we put up. I'll go ahead and say, unfortunately, when the sign was put up when it was damaged, we lost all of the information that was in that sign. But the police department have been monitoring it. We don't have any reports that we can go back and print out, but they have been monitoring it, and the policy says that there has to the 85 percentile. I can get you a copy of the policy. But the speed, those that are speeding on East Main Street were not in that percentile that would have prompted us to put in speed bumps. But like I said, and like you said, the sign was damaged. They fixed the sign. They had to get another bracket. The electric department was trying to repair the bracket. They went last Thursday and picked up a new bracket and then 2 additional signs that we purchased. And so what we will do now is put a sign in both directions, because when we originally put the signs up, we had a sign on your street and then we had a sign on John Street. And so we only had information of the vehicles heading in one direction, because it didn't record the speed of those going in the other direction. So we've realized now, trial and error, that we've got to have a sign going in both directions so that we can get the speeds for all of the traffic that's on the road.
Okay.
Because I know that you guys have had constant complaints about the speed, but the signs that we put out didn't show that. It could possibly be that we had the sign in the wrong place. So we can go back and look at that.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, even though the previous council approved the speed bump, approved it, we still have to have the data from the signs. Is that right? And from the detection, I guess from the detection signs.
I think what we did was approve the development of the policy.
Okay.
The policy was developed and we approved the policy.
All right.
And
Okay.
we did that in response to the East Main Street, in my recollection. Is that right?
That's right. We did not include speed bumps, the policy, so that, because we had several streets at the same time that everybody was going, speed bumps, and if we didn't have some sort of policy in order to say, yes, we need a speed bump here, then that's when we created the speed bump policy.
Okay.
Well, they approved that after they approved the speed bump, and they implemented, what it sounds like they implemented a policy after they approved the speed bumps.
Okay.
I'd need to go back and check on that, because my recollection's a little fuzzy. I remember when y'all were here, and we said we were gonna address it, and then I remember our gears shifted in the direction of the policy.
There was an approval of 4 streets. There was an approval of 4 streets.
Well,
Unanimous vote.
I would say the speed detection signs.
All that.
Yes, I recall that.
All right.
You know, I'll let y'all take that from here.
I wondered where they were too, because I've been through there and never saw them.
We actually discussed the price of them and everything. The one gentleman, I can't remember that was here.
Yeah.
That was
her.
That's
Yeah.
why he sent everything forward. So.
He had a lot of data on
Yeah, we sent
how much they cost, and I'm
But he didn't say he can install them
I
himself.
thought we were putting them in over
I
there.
thought they were too.
They were fairly
I wondered where they were.
I'm curious how much have we invested into the installation of the signs, which are now broke, we have to order more, versus how much it would cost to just put the speed bumps in place.
Well, I think the discussion was, yes, I think we did say we were going to put them over there, but then there were a lot of, like Janice said, there were a lot of requests, and the mayor said there were other people that had the same complaints, so we didn't want to get in the habit of going, every time somebody complained, we go put up a speed bump, so that's what triggered us coming up with some sort of policy to address speeding, right? So we'd have a way to get some data and say, yes, we could or could not put in speed
Yes. bumps. There was another councilman, gentleman here, and he was the one that brought forth the other 3 streets, and there was a vote, a unanimous vote, to have those speed bumps put into place. Now, any further, policies you want to implement, should probably be done after that, because we've already been unanimously voted to get these speed bumps. So I'm a little bit insulted myself. But considering the speeders that are coming down the street, when I have all these kids, drag racing, and there's report after report, our address is directly on the wall. Okay? And so we're bending over backwards to, make our neighborhood nice. I'm picking up the trash down our streets. I mean, we're doing everything we can. We just need you guys to help us out a little bit. That's all.
So the drag racing is coming from the other direction from where the signs are.
Yeah.
When they're coming around that corner from the stop sign, they're just flying down our road. Not in the direction that the sign is.
Is this happening at any particular time?
Usually after 3 o'clock.
3 in the afternoon, and it's the same car club people,
It's
and they're
red Camaro,
flying.
white Camaro, blue Charger, white Charger, Mustang.
We've got
Fifty,
those.
60
flying
miles.
on our road.
We've even gotten the license plates to a lot of them. And they're not as hot and heavy during the winter months, but spring and summer's picking up, and boy, are they flying.
They're
And
flying.
I'm curious, do our officers even have radar to catch these guys? I mean, because I'm not seeing that kind of equipment on the front of their cars.
The
And I understand they have to have
regulates.
training for that as well. So are they getting the training? I mean, what's going on here?
Got
So
an
we
officer-
want to build up for signs, we got to be able to protect them as well.
got a police officer sitting right here.
We have handheld devices. They're on the
Handheld devices, so that's not radar, so your
No,
handheld
it's
devices.
the laser's more accurate than radar.
Right.
We can't run it over there because of the dimensions and the concave of the street.
So what do you need to run over there? Because
We need the road to be straight.
you need what?
The road to be straight.
Their cars have to be visible 300 feet. Isn't that correct?
We have to have, by state law, there has to be a certain amount of street that has a line of sight
How much?
as far as grade.
Is it quarter mile, half a mile, what are we talking
I
about?
have to pull extra stats, but I can
Speed.
speed.
Okay. Well, our streets,
300 feet, they have to be this.
Our streets are one straight.
You're talking about line of sight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just the car being moved, but line of sight to the car that's detected. But, all right, let's rein it in here. So regardless of, we've got different recollections, it looks like, and I'm truly fuzzy on it. So what is council's, regardless of what we did or didn't do, y'all seem to think we did approve it. So do y'all want to say that we're going to put,
I think we need to put,
all right, you make that in the form of a motion, Mr.
I
Dodd?
second motion that we put.
We have a motion and a second from Councilman Hewitt.
Now,
This is put-
is it, do you need 2 or 4?
We need 3.
So this one,
And, but if we could at least get 2, I think we could survive.
that's all in the policy as to where they need to be placed and how far apart.
The type of speed bumps.
Did we adopt the policy?
It's humps, not speed bumps.
We did adopt the policy.
I
It's
don't.
called a traffic calming.
Yeah.
The traffic calming.
Okay, I do remember that. I do recall that. But I remember the meeting and y'all coming and us voting.
Oh, I totally agree with you on that one. I totally do. I remember the meeting and I remember the policy that we implemented. I don't know which one came first, but I do know that summertime is here.
Yeah.
Kids gonna be in the street a little bit later at night, and the car going over there like a bat out of hell is not a safe thing to do. If it was my neighborhood, I would be racing the cane too.
Right.
We're asking them to slow down as nice as we can, and it's just one ear after the other. I mean, we're dealing with millennials
Well,
here.
they're cussing us out.
Yeah, that's
Because it's
it.
bird.
So, we're just dealing with idiots.
But to me, the speed bumps
We have children too.
similar to four-way stop. We just adopted four-way stop because the speed issue and pedestrian safety. It's the same issue back. The speed and pedestrian safety. We need to put the speed bumps.
We got a lot of them to put up. To,
Well, we start there because we voted that. We haven't voted yet.
I agree, and I'm sympathetic to their plight for sure. They've got a nice street over there, and they do a good job looking after things. So, all right. So we have a motion and second to put speed bumps on East Main Street. Is there any more discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously and so approved. All right. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all again for listening to us.
Thank you for coming. All right. Any other public comments? Anyone in the audience wishing to come forward may do so for 4 minutes on any topic. Please state your name and address. Looks like Mr. Ronald Beard is approaching the stand.
It's been a while.
Been a while. How you been doing?
It's been a bad year.
Well, are we in trouble?
Yep.
All right. Fantastic.
Well, not really. Miss Hall stole my thunder. I think you said it because that thing was running. I couldn't hear very well. I received this notice on Saturday. I have automatic pay on my utilities. They're going to cut me off tomorrow. Anybody else get one of these letters that have automatic pay? What'd you do about it? I'm asking a question. You answered theirs. I'm mad. I'm upset with it. And I went to the place over there today, paid my bill. This is not the first time. This is the second time this has happened to me. And I don't know how long we've had this going on, but several years. I don't know. Actually, you helped me set it up. Thank you. Ms. Hall, I don't have a problem with her. She's the greatest person in the world. But when you have automatic pay, there's something wrong with our system. Now, this is what, I'm coming off the cuff. Okay. I don't know. This had to happen before the 5th because that's when they take mine out. I don't know when it happened.
Mr. Beard, if I could interrupt.
Yeah.
I won't take away your time.
Okay.
What happened this time was not related to you're being on automatic pay or not. We had an attack.
Okay, I was told that.
It's not something that we expect to happen or expect to happen again, and there are measures in place to deal with that kind of stuff. So I hope you will consider this as a one-off and something that it wasn't a glitch in the system, it wasn't somebody made a mistake and wanted to cut you off. And I understand your frustration. It may still be the same, but I wanted you to have that knowledge to go along with it.
Actually, I promised I'd be good tonight.
Well, you are.
No, sometimes I can't be. But, okay, let me ask you this. So something happened. I don't know what day it happened. But it had to be on or before the 5th because that's when they take my payment. Okay, if you're going to generate me with this letter, which was very embarrassing to me. I mean, it may not be to other people, but it is to me. If you're going to generate, whoever generates it, I don't think you do. I think you'll have a company that does this. They knew the problem was there. Okay? Somebody knew it. I don't know who all knew it. But whoever was sending these letters out knew there was a problem. They should have sent a letter out and said, hey, sorry, Mr. Bearden, we're not going to take your payment on the 5th because we have this problem. And we're not going to turn you off on the 18th. That's what we should have had is a letter stating what happened rather than one of these. I'm being honest. That does make me a little angry. But we need to have something in place that if it does happen again, that citizens, that you're guaranteed my money. If I went up there and gave you cash every month, I may forget. I send a check or I do this. You've got my accounts. 5th of the month, you got your money. I don't care if I owe you $1 or $100 or whatever it is. You've got yours. But I'm a little upset over that, but I think there's something we can do, and I'm not sure how y'all would do it, but if it does happen again, letters need to go out to whoever and say, we're going to not take your payment today, but we're going to take it here, and you will not be charged a late fee. Now, I went in this morning, asked the little girl, she said it was a glitch. She didn't know. Okay. She said it was a glitch, but I'm going good with that. So I had this little thing. She said, hey, why don't you go ahead and pay $90. And I said, why shouldn't I? I said, I owe you whatever this says, 90-something bucks. She said, that's next month. Yeah, I did too. I laughed. I said, well, let me tell you something. I said, if I pay that today, then on the 5th of June, I won't know if it's working. I'll have to wait till July. I will be in town on the 5th. Yeah, I'll be back on the 5th. I'll be gone next week. But I'll be out for about 2 months after that. So it'll be probably July and August. I come home, and I told y'all one time, if I come home and my power's off, which one of y'all am I going to come to sleep with? Because I'm not going to sleep in the cold, and I'm not going to sleep in the hot. So I'm going to come. I don't care which one. There's 7 or 8, 10 of y'all around here. But this is what got me this morning. I've had both shots. I'm fully inoculated.
All right.
Now, that right there is the amount I owe you with penalties.
Okay.
I was charging you that amount this morning.
Did you tell them?
I went back in. I had to go back in and say, hey, what's this? Well, she said he gave you a credit of $8.32. That's not much. They'll buy you a sandwich. But it made me mad that she knew I was on automatic because I asked her to bring up my account. I said, have I missed a payment? Oh, no. 5th of the month. You got your money. Then you go, I have to go wait in line for 3 more people. That's what made me mad. But no, this stuff can be addressed by, and everything can be computerized nowadays. Don't ask me how. I have an iPad. I don't even have a computer anymore. Don't have a printer. Don't want one, don't need one. But somebody can generate a system that says, if there's any problem that you're not going to take your payment, yours or mine, on that date, so you won't be late, send you a letter and say, I'm sorry, we had this problem. We will take your money at a later date with no penalties. That's how simple it can be. I know our system may be older, not ours, but whoever's. They may have an old system. We need to look into that because I'm sure I'm not the only one that got this letter. And you may have gotten some phone calls. If not, well, I'm surprised. But I was very disappointed when I got it. I'll be honest about it. I was a little ticked. But I've had this problem once before, and I hope to goodness I don't have it again. Because I hope you have an extra bedroom suite somewhere because
I've got it on my calendar to check. It's June 5th. Make sure you got files.
well, no, it's on the 18th they cut it off.
Oh, okay.
But no, the main thing is why would they charge me a late fee when they knew I had an automatic pay? It was somebody else's fault, not mine. That y'all didn't take my money. That's what I say. Y'all take my money.
Right.
I don't pay a bill. Everything's automatic. Well, I'm out of town. I don't have to worry about it. That's what I tell folks. I don't worry about the bills. There's money in the bank. Well, the money, that's my problem. But believe me, there's money there. But I appreciate it. I just had to come up and say something.
Good point.
And I'm sorry that you stole my thunder. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beard.
Appreciate
You always
it.
give us stuff we can work on. We will. All right. Any other public comments at this time? Anybody else wishing to come forward? Hearing none?
That's one comment. That was the exact policy you sent out. But there would be no late charging, late fees imposed.
So you guys approved to extend the time frame for penalties and cutoffs by the amount of time that the system was down.
Right. That's right. That was the policy. Yeah. And I got a letter too.
Right here. Here's the letter.
I got a letter too, and I was on the cutoff. So I had to go up and
All right.
take care of it.
All right.
Even though it was our mistake. See.
All right. Any other public comments? Seeing no further interest in public comments, we'll close the floor. No need for executive session that I'm aware of. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion
by Councilman Hewitt, second by Councilman Dodd. All in favor? All right. Meeting is adjourned. Y'all have a good day.